Imagine discovering that your daily hour of watching Netflix isn't actually costing you a 500 rupee subscription fee.
Right?
It's actually costing you 9,000 rupees in lost wealth every single month.
Which is just a staggering number when you hear it out loud like that.
It really is. And today we are completely tearing down these comfortable lies we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
about time, about failure, and what it actually takes to focus in a world that is frankly designed to distract you.
Exactly. Because usually when we talk about a life plan or building a successful career, there's this expectation of engineering-level precision.
Yeah, you're supposed to just have it all mapped out.
Right. Society tells you to lay down the track, get the prestigious degree, land the entry-level job at the recognizable company, and just, follow the map straight ahead to the corner office.
But the standard narrative is incredibly seductive, isn't it? Because it offers this illusion of safety.
It does. We inherently crave predictable categories. We want success to be a highly visible, linear progression where you're either on schedule or you're falling behind.
But the moment you look at the reality of building a genuinely meaningful life, one that actually fulfills you rather than just, looking good on a LinkedIn profile, that pristine map becomes worse than useless.
It becomes a trap.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trap. And you're suddenly navigating the muddy waters of real life where those traditional markers of success, the fame, the wealth, the shiny job title, they often just lead to profound emptiness, especially if they aren't tethered to real self-awareness.
And that's why our mission for today's deep dive is so critical. We want to shortcut the path to a well-informed, intentional life for you.
And we want to do it without the overwhelming information overload that, usually comes with this territory. For you listening right now, we are dismantling that standard narrative. We are asking the biggest question of them all. What does it really mean to live a meaningful life?
To answer that, we have an incredibly potent stack of sources to synthesize today. We're looking at Ankur Warikoo's bold, really insight-driven book, Do Epic Shit.
Such a great title.
It really is. And we're bringing in his extensive writings on time management, early struggles, and financial awareness. And then we are pairing that philosophy with Cal Newport's definitive guide to cognitive focus, deep work.
It's a brilliant pairing. I was reading through these this week, and the synergy is just undeniable. Warikoo gives us the foundational philosophy, the self-awareness, and those crucial mindset shifts required to even know what we want.
Right, the internal work.
Exactly. And then Newport steps in and hands us the absolute hardcore mechanics of execution to actually get it done. And I want to emphasize to you, the listener, right at the top, this isn't about complicated theories.
Right.
This isn't some university lecture on abstract philosophy. This is about practical, actionable aha moments. We are looking at the why and the how behind living intentionally, so you can apply these concepts the second this deep dive ends.
Because knowledge only transforms your life when you understand the underlying mechanisms well enough to apply them to your own context. Otherwise, you're just, collecting trivia. We really need to look at the psychology, the economics, and even the neurology of how we spend our days.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can even start talking about building this meaningful life, we have to clear the site. We have to tear down those false expectations society has built for us.
Which is often the hardest part.
Oh, absolutely. And that begins with self-awareness and a complete radical redefinition of what failure actually means. Because, we're taught from grade school that failure is the ultimate boogeyman, right?
We're taught to avoid it at all costs, to hide our mistakes.
Yeah, and to project this image of constant, smooth competence.
And that cultural aversion to failure is deeply ingrained. It acts as a massive psychological barrier. Because when you are terrified of making a mistake, you optimize for safety rather than growth.
You take the job that's guaranteed rather than the risk that's actually meaningful to you.
Exactly. Which brings us perfectly to Ankur Warikoo's story, because it perfectly illustrates the danger of that quote-unquote safe path.
Right. And if you don't know him, Warikoo is a massive serial entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author, an online educator, an investor. He was on Fortune magazine's 40 Under 40 list.
His bio screams perfect success story.
It really does. But our sources highlight that he absolutely refuses to let people skip over his messy beginnings, because his beginnings were exactly the kind of perfect plan that society tells us to chase.
He was on the quintessential, culturally approved track, middle-class family, super high expectations, basically checking every single box.
He graduated from Hindu college. He got a full scholarship to pursue a PhD in the United States. He was going to be a space engineer.
Check.
Right. He had the prestige, the clear path, the approval of everyone around him. And then He completely derailed. He realized it just wasn't what he actually wanted.
So he dropped out of the PhD program and came back.
And the sources detail this incredibly harrowing period in his late teens and early adulthood where he had to start over multiple times. He failed, and he failed badly.
And we really need to pause and examine the weight of that moment, because it's incredibly easy to look back on a massive failure from the mountaintop of success and frame it as, a great learning experience.
Oh, for sure. The hindsight bias is real.
It is.
Yeah.
But when you're down in the valley experiencing the sunk cost fallacy of throwing away years of education, it's terrifying. The sources outline the specific visceral moment where Warikoo found himself jobless. He had exactly 5 months worth of savings left, and he had 2 kids to feed.
5 months of runway, 2 children depending on you, and 0 income. I mean, the anxiety must have been paralyzing. When you're in that position, society tells you to panic.
It tells you to take the very first paycheck you can find,
Yeah.
bury your dreams, and just survive.
Yeah. And the biological response to that level of threat is to seek immediate shelter, right? Your brain's amygdala is just screaming at you to find safety.
Exactly. But instead of retreating into the first available corporate job that would just pay the bills but crush his spirit, Warikoo used this incredibly high-pressure period to pivot.
He leaned into the friction.
He did. He began his journey as a content creator and an entrepreneur. And he didn't do it just to earn a quick buck. He did it because he possessed a rich underlying skill set. And, crucially, he realized he actually enjoyed the process of creating and building.
And out of that crucible, he eventually wrote Do Epic Shit. But let's connect this back to you, the listener. The sources point out that Warikoo's ultimate takeaway from this period is that success by a certain age is a completely fabricated timeline.
It's totally made up.
Completely. We all buy into it, though. You
Right.
know, I need to be a manager by 25. I need to be married by 28. I need to own a house by 30.
It's an illusion constructed by societal averages, and it completely ignores individual context. And the psychology of comparison is what makes this fake timeline so destructive.
The sources note how often we compare our chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
All right, when you're struggling in your 20s or 30s, trying to figure out your path, you look around and see people who seem to have it all figured out. But you're looking at their carefully curated highlight reel.
You're looking at Warikoo's Fortune 40 under 40 cover, not the jobless father staring at a depleting bank account with only 5 months left.
And that kind of comparison is toxic because it forces us into a race we never even signed up for. Warikoo observes that most people spend their entire lives chasing things they don't even truly understand.
They blindly follow these paths because society expects them to. They chase the specific salary bracket, the specific prestige job title, and then I think this is the real tragedy of the modern professional world, that they actually reach those goals.
Yeah.
They get the corner office, they look at their bank account, they have the title, and they realize they are miserable.
They reach the top of the ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. And this happens because they bypassed the hard work of self-awareness. They adopted society's definition of success rather than doing the internal excavation to find their own.
Warikoo is absolutely adamant that understanding yourself is the non-negotiable first step toward living an extraordinary life. He proposes 3 critical questions that we really need to sit with. Number 1, what motivates you? Number 2, what do you truly enjoy doing? And number 3, what kind of life do you want to build?
Those questions sound deceptively simple, don't they?
They really do.
But they're rarely answered honestly.
Yeah.
Most people answer them with what they think they're supposed to say based on their cultural conditioning. Like if I ask a professional, what motivates you? They might immediately say leadership and impact.
Right, the resume answers.
Exactly. But if we look at their actual behavior, they might actually be motivated by autonomy and quiet problem solving.
Or they say, I want to build a life of prestige and massive wealth. But do they? Or do they actually want a life of ultimate flexibility where they can work from a cabin in the woods and spend 4 hours a day with their kids?
And getting to the honest answers to those questions almost always involves failing a few times first. You have to try the wrong thing to figure out that it's the wrong thing.
You have to take the management promotion, hate the endless meetings, and realize, oh, I am not motivated by leadership at all. I am motivated by deep individual contribution.
But again, we're taught to view life like a train on a fixed track. If a train derails, it's an unmitigated disaster. People get hurt, the journey is over, it's a catastrophic, irreversible event.
But listening to Warikoo's philosophy, I realized life shouldn't be modeled after a train at all. It should be modeled after a GPS.
Oh, I love that. Let's expand on that metaphor,
Sure.
because it perfectly captures the required mindset shift.
Think about it. When you take a wrong turn in your car, the GPS doesn't scream at you. It doesn't say, "You failed, you're a disgrace." The entire road trip is ruined.
Right, doesn't judge you.
It simply says recalculating. It takes the new data, the fact that you missed the exit or that there's traffic ahead, and it immediately plots a new course to get you to your destination from your current location. A failure in life is just the universe or the market saying recalculating based on new data.
You tried the business idea. It failed. That's new data. Recalculate.
Exactly.
The cognitive framing of recalculating completely removes the moral judgment from failure. And it aligns perfectly with Warikoo's argument that early failures and messy explorations are not setbacks. They are capital investments. You are buying data about yourself.
He states that the real markers of growth aren't smooth, uninterrupted wins. The real markers are asking the right questions, immersing yourself in completely new experiences, and willingly stepping outside your comfort zone to gather that data. So I really want to ask you, the listener, directly right now. Have you been avoiding a risk because you were afraid of losing stability?
Ouch.
Are you staying on the train tracks because the idea of derailing terrifies you, even though the crane is heading to a destination you don't even care about? Warikoo's message is crystal clear here. Growth rarely, if ever, happens inside your comfort zone. You have to embrace the uncertainty of the recalculation.
However, taking those risks and recalculating your path requires resources. You cannot pivot without fuel. And that requires a massive shift in how you view the resources you actually have at your disposal, which brings us to the most critical, universally misunderstood resource of all.
Time. This is where we transition from the philosophy of embracing failure into the actual hardcore mechanics of how we exist in the world. Warikoo has a framework on managing time that completely reframes the concept.
He starts by pointing out something obvious but profound when you truly internalize it. Time is the only asset that is distributed equally among every single human being on Earth.
Every single person you admire, every person you're intimidated by, every historical figure who changed the world, and every person you're secretly jealous of on social media, they all operate within the exact same 24-hour constraint that you do.
You cannot inherit more of it. You cannot borrow it from a bank.
Warikoo breaks time down into 3 distinct currencies. He says time is an allocation, time is energy, and time is money. Let's explore those, starting with allocation, because I know you, the listener, are probably familiar with the urgent, important matrix.
Oh, yeah. We've all seen it in corporate training seminars or read about it in Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
For those who need a refresher, it's a simple grid with 4 quadrants categorizing tasks, right? Important and urgent. Important but not urgent. Not important but urgent. And not important and not urgent.
And the standard corporate advice is to use this purely for task delegation. Do the first quadrant, schedule the second, delegate the third, and delete the fourth.
I have always found that traditional applications so dry and frankly a bit patronizing. It assumes we operate like robots. But Warikoo entirely flips the utility of it. He argues it isn't a task management tool at all.
He explicitly states, it isn't about managing time, it is about managing your energy.
This is a vital psychological distinction. We have different reserves of energy. Physical energy, emotional energy, mental energy, and spiritual energy. And they are all directly tethered to how we spend our time in those quadrants.
If you spend your entire day in quadrant 3, doing things that are urgent to someone else, but not important to your own goals, like answering a barrage of panicked emails from a disorganized colleague, you experience a specific neurochemical drain.
You get the adrenaline spikes of the urgency, but you never get the dopamine reward of accomplishing something meaningful.
You end the day completely exhausted, but feeling like you achieved absolutely nothing. Your schedule might look perfectly optimized, but your energy is bankrupt.
So, if you eat junk, sleep late, and let other people's emergencies dictate your morning, no amount of time-blocking apps will save you.
The standard advice is to try and force yourself to live exclusively in the important, not urgent quadrant, long-term strategy, relationship building, deep thinking. But Warikoo suggests something far more realistic.
He says the real key is figuring out the unique distribution of your time across all 4 quadrants that maximizes your personal energy. Because when your energy is maximized, your productivity and your performance follow naturally as a byproduct.
So it's about giving yourself permission to exist in all 4 quadrants, provided it is a highly intentional choice. Doing things you want to do when you want to do them.
Which leads directly into his 3rd core idea, and this is where he gets incredible analytical. He says, time is money. And he does not mean this as a cute metaphor.
No, he treats it as a literal economic reality. Warikoo insists that everyone's time has a quantifiable financial value, and your primary goal in life should be to keep increasing the value of your hour.
I was running the math from his book and it blew my mind. Let's do the calculation together.
Let's do it.
Let's say you earn a salary of 50,000 rupees per month. You work 22 days a month for roughly 8 hours a day. 22 days times 8 hours is 176 hours of work a month.
Okay, so you divide your 50,000 rupee salary by those 176 hours. Your per hour cost, your baseline market value, is roughly 284 rupees.
284 rupees an hour. Okay, now let's say you decide to watch Netflix for 1 hour every single evening to unwind. Most people think, well, my Netflix subscription costs about 499 rupees a month. That's incredibly cheap entertainment.
But Warikoo points out the hidden economic trap. Opportunity cost. You are spending 1 hour a day over roughly 30 days a month, doing an activity that does absolutely nothing to increase your market value.
So 30 hours multiplied by your hourly rate of 284 rupees is 8,520 rupees. Let's round it up to 9,000 for simplicity, as Warikoo does.
The harsh reality is that watching Netflix isn't costing you 499 a month. It is costing you 9,000 rupees a month in lost opportunity.
Okay, wait, I have to push back heavily here, because when I first processed that math, my immediate reaction was, this is a one-way ticket to burnout.
It sounds exhausting.
It does. If I am quantifying every single hour of my life, including my relaxation, as lost money, aren't I just going to drive myself insane? If I take a Sunday afternoon nap, am I losing 1,000 rupees? How does Warikoo expect a normal human being to balance that without turning into a hyper-capitalist productivity robot who never enjoys life?
What's fascinating here is that that is the exact pushback most people have, and it is a completely valid fear.
Yeah.
But if we dig deeper into the mechanism of Warikoo's philosophy, he is not telling you to monetize your downtime or abolish rest.
Okay.
Remember the previous point. Time is energy. If watching a visually stunning movie or taking a nap genuinely replenishes your emotional or mental energy so that you can tackle a highly complex problem the next morning, then that time was not wasted. It was an investment in your energy matrix.
Okay, so the distinction is between restorative rest and escapist numbing.
Precisely. What he is fiercely attacking is the mindless consumption of time. He's attacking the hour you spend scrolling through short-form videos while feeling completely empty inside. He's urging temporal and financial awareness.
So if someone says, but I wasn't scheduled to work at 8 p.m., so how did I lose money?
His response is that you could have spent that hour increasing the value of your future time. You could have been learning a new coding language, reading a profound book, or building a side business. You have to treat time as a depleting asset that can never be bought back, no matter how rich you become.
We act as if our time is an infinite resource, so we treat it like it's cheap. We give it away to anyone who asks.
And the sources provide a beautifully visceral, illustrative example of this cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
The 86,400 seconds analogy.
I want every listener to visualize this scenario right now. Imagine your bank deposits exactly 86,400 rupees into your account every single morning.
Yeah.
The only catch is that if you don't spend it, the balance disappears at midnight. You can't roll it over. But every single morning, a fresh 86,400 appears.
Right. Now imagine you're walking down the street and someone bumps into you, pickpockets you, and steals 400 rupees. Would you be so consumed by rage that you take the remaining 86,000 rupees out of your pocket and just throw it in the trash in a fit of anger?
Of course not. That would be clinically insane. You'd be annoyed about the stolen 400. Sure, you might vent to a friend about it, but you would immediately pivot to using the rest of your massive daily fortune.
But look at the tragic irony of how we treat our time. We all get exactly 86,400 seconds a day. Yet if someone messes us up for 400 seconds, maybe someone aggressively cuts you off in traffic, or a coworker leaves a passive-aggressive comment on your document, we allow it to ruin us.
We spend the rest of the entire day overthinking it. We literally throw away 86,000 seconds of joy, deep work, and connection because we allowed 400 seconds to be stolen.
It's loss aversion gone wrong. When you frame it like that, it's almost embarrassing how easily we surrender our most precious asset to petty frustrations.
It reveals a severe lack of internal awareness. We install security cameras to guard our cars, we use biometric locks on our bank apps, but we leave the vault door wide open when it comes to our time.
But realizing that time is a constantly depleting asset creates a new anxiety.
Yeah.
How do you actually protect it? If every second is either building your energy and value or draining it, then letting your inbox steal your morning isn't just a minor distraction.
It is financially and intellectually ruinous. Having the philosophical intent to value your time is useless without a systemic defense mechanism.
Which brings us perfectly to Cal Newport's work on extreme focus. Because execution is where the magic happens, and Newport's book, Deep Work, is the ultimate architectural blueprint for building that defense mechanism.
Yes, and Newport starts by drawing a very hard, non-negotiable line in the sand between two fundamental types of effort: deep work and shallow work.
Understanding the economic and neurological differences between these two is the foundational step to reclaiming your career. Newport defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their absolute limit.
This is the heavy lifting. The sources note that these efforts create new value in the world, they rapidly improve your skills, and they are incredibly hard for anyone else to replicate.
Right. If you're writing a comprehensive book, or architecting a complex software backend, or synthesizing a year's worth of financial data for a major strategy pivot that requires deep work.
Contrast that with shallow work. These are the non-cognitively demanding logistical-style tasks that you can perform while partially distracted. Checking your inbox every 10 minutes, responding to endless Slack pings, updating a spreadsheet with basic data, or attending status meetings where no actual decisions are made.
Shallow work is like eating intellectual empty calories. You feel incredibly full at the end of the day because you answered 80 emails and attended 4 Zoom calls, but your career is starving because you haven't produced any actual nutrients.
You haven't created any new code, formulated any new strategies, or written anything profound. The terrifying thing Newport points out is that shallow work does not create unique value, and it is laughably easy to replicate. An entry-level employee can do it.
Increasingly, an AI algorithm can do it better and faster than you can.
Exactly. So we have to ask the psychological question. If shallow work is so economically precarious, why do so many of us default to it?
The answer is that it acts as a very convenient proxy for productivity. In the modern knowledge economy, it is often very hard to measure what it means to be productive on a Tuesday afternoon. So in the absence of clear indicators, we fall back on the appearance of busyness. If my little green dot is active on the company chat, I feel like I am working hard.
But busyness is not productivity. Bouncing between browser tabs is not how you build an extraordinary life. Newport argues that deep work is the #1 job skill that will never become obsolete.
As the world becomes more chaotic, and as information expands exponentially, the ability to learn hard things quickly and produce exceptional outputs is becoming increasingly rare.
And basic economics tells us that when something is both highly valuable and increasingly rare, the people who possess it command the market.
The few individuals who actively cultivate the skill of deep work and make it the core engine of their working life are the ones who will write their own tickets.
Here's where it gets really interesting. How do we actually do it? Newport outlines 4 distinct philosophies for scheduling deep work. And as I walk through these, I want you listening to really interrogate your own life. Don't just pick the one that sounds coolest. Figure out which one actually fits your career constraints.
Context dictates strategy here. The first is the monastic philosophy.
The monastic approach is extreme. This involves spending all of your working hours on a singular high-level focus. Total isolation. You essentially disappear from the world. Your default response to any meeting request, email, or commitment is simply no.
Neurologically, this has the highest potential for massive output because you eliminate all context switching. Every time you switch tasks, your brain suffers from attention residue, where part of your focus is still stuck on the previous task. The monastic approach eliminates that friction entirely.
But, let's be realistic and inject some heavy pushback here. That approach is incredibly privileged. If I tell my boss tomorrow that I am going monastic and will be ignoring all Slack messages and client emails for 3 months, I am not going to achieve a state of nirvana. I am going to get fired.
Right.
How does Newport expect a regular manager or an integrated team member to use this?
He doesn't. Newport is very clear that unless you are a science fiction author, writing your magnum opus, or a theoretical physicist, you should skip the monastic approach entirely. It isolates you from the serendipity of collaboration and the reality of modern commerce.
Makes sense.
That brings us to the second, much more applicable method, The bimodal philosophy.
Bimodal scheduling allows for a massive amount of depth work, but it still enables you to maintain a normal professional life. It involves splitting your time into large, clearly defined chunks.
So you might spend 2 full weeks acting like a monastic, totally unreachable, locked in a room doing deep work on a specific project, and then spend the next 2 weeks being completely available for shallow work, endless meetings, and collaboration.
We see this frequently in academia. A professor will teach classes and hold office hours during the semester, the shallow collaborative phase, and then disappear to a cabin for the summer to do deep research and writing. It requires a lot of leverage and flexibility in how you can arrange your calendar.
Which brings us to the third approach. And this is probably the sweet spot for people with traditional 9-to-5 jobs. The rhythmic philosophy.
The rhythmic philosophy relies on the power of habituation. It is about building an unshakable daily rhythm. You block off several hours every single day for deep work, for example, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., and you relentlessly protect that window. You leave the entire rest of the afternoon for the shallow work, the meetings, and the emails.
By doing it at the exact same time every day, your brain builds an expectation. It knows, okay, it's 8 a.m., the coffee is poured, it is time to dive deep. It removes the daily friction of deciding when to work.
And finally, we have the fourth approach, the journalistic philosophy.
This approach demands immense vigilance and cognitive flexibility. The journalistic approach is about noticing natural, unexpected ebbs and flows in your day and fitting in 30 to 60 minutes of deep work wherever a window suddenly opens.
Like a client meeting ends 45 minutes early, boom, you instantly drop into deep work, your flight gets delayed, boom, an hour of deep work at the gate.
But our sources come with a massive warning label on this one. It is not for beginners. If you haven't trained your brain to drop into deep focus on command, trying to do it for 30 random minutes in a noisy airport lounge is going to fail spectacularly. You will just end up doom scrolling on your phone.
Exactly. It requires a highly conditioned attention span, which is why, regardless of which of the four philosophies you choose, you cannot rely on sheer willpower. Willpower is a depleting resource. You have to build a systematic, deep work routine from scratch to support your intention.
Let's break down that architectural blueprint. Newport gives 4 specific considerations for building a routine that actually signals your brain to focus. Number 1, location.
You need a physical space that is explicitly distraction-free. The environment serves as a powerful psychological trigger. If you work on your couch where you also watch Netflix, your brain is confused about what mode it should be in.
If you can't find a dedicated quiet room, Newport suggests using noise-canceling headphones to artificially construct a walled-off environment. Familiarity is crucial here. Working in the exact same spot with the exact same setup leverages context-dependent memory to help your brain drop into the zone faster.
Number 2 is duration. You have to determine precisely how much time you're going to devote to the task before you start. You cannot leave it open-ended. And the critical advice here is to start remarkably small.
Don't decide you're going to do 4 hours of deep work on day 1. You will fail and you will get discouraged.
Start with 15 minutes. Focus is a muscle. You have to flex it, break it down slightly, and build the endurance over time.
Number 3 is structure. This is where you establish the strict rules of engagement. What does deep work mode actually look like for you? You have to define the parameters so you don't have to make micro decisions while you are trying to work.
Is your phone completely powered off in another room, or is it just on silent face down? Are you allowed to open a new browser tab to quickly look up a statistic, or is the Wi-Fi entirely disabled?
You have to make these rules explicit, and you must define how you measure the success of that specific session. Are you measuring words written, lines of code compiled, pages of research read? You need a concrete metric so you know when you've succeeded.
And finally, number 4, requirements. You must anticipate every single physical and digital thing you will need to support your commitment before you begin. Get your coffee, load your specific instrumental playlist, open the specific software programs, and have your notes ready.
Because the moment you hit a point of cognitive friction, your brain will look for an excuse to quit. If you have to break your focus to walk to the kitchen for a glass of water, you shatter the delicate state of deep work, and it takes an average of 23 minutes to get that level of focus back.
Okay, so you've designed your routine, you've picked your rhythmic philosophy, you've set up your location, you have your water. But here is the brutal, undeniable truth we all face. We are operating in a hostile environment.
Distractions are literally engineered by multi-billion-dollar tech companies to break our focus.
They employ armies of behavioral psychologists to weaponize your notifications against your attention span. Having a routine is great, But how do we train our brains to fight back and stay in the deep end?
It requires proactive defense and rigorous cognitive training. Newport outlines several high-level tactics for this. The first is a psychological hack he calls the grand gesture.
I love this concept because it taps into our flair for the dramatic. Sometimes your day-to-day routine just isn't enough to get you over the hump on a massive, intimidating project.
A grand gesture is a radical change in your normal environment, almost always coupled with a significant investment of effort or money, dedicated entirely to supporting a deep work task. By making a significant upfront investment, you instantly elevate the perceived importance of the task in your own subconscious mind.
You are creating a scenario where failing to focus would feel economically or socially painful.
The famous example cited in the sources is Bill Gates' Think Week. Twice a year, he completely isolates himself at a remote cottage for 2 weeks just to read papers and think deeply about the future of technology.
That is a massive grand gesture. But you don't have to be a tech billionaire to use this. A grand gesture could be booking a cheap hotel room across town for the weekend with the singular goal of finishing your thesis. It could be paying for a day pass at a high-end co-working space just to finalize a pitch deck.
It harnesses the neurological power of novelty. When you alert your mind to the importance of a task through a radical change in routine, you bypass your normal daily fatigue and access your ability to work deeply much more readily.
Once you have corralled your attention into that space, Newport introduces strategies borrowed directly from the highest levels of the corporate world. The 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX.
These were originally designed for massive companies to execute strategy, but Newport adapts them as incredibly powerful tools for individuals. Discipline number 1 is to focus on the wildly important.
During your deep work hours, you must direct your effort exclusively toward a very small number of highly ambitious goals. If you have 15 priorities, you have 0 priorities. You have to keep the wildly important goal at the absolute forefront of your mind so it becomes easier to ignore the trivial distractions.
Discipline number 2 is an absolute game changer for how you view your progress. Act on led measures rather than lagging measures.
Let me explain the mechanics of this because it completely shifted how I work. A lagging measure is the ultimate result you are trying to achieve. Publishing a best-selling book, hitting a sales target of $1 million, or losing 10 pounds.
The problem with lagging measures is that by the time you measure them, they are in the past. You cannot change them. Furthermore, lagging measures are often influenced by factors entirely outside your control. The market might shift, an algorithm might change.
Right. A lead measure, on the other hand, is the specific behavior that will theoretically produce the lag measure. And crucial distinction. You have 100% control over a lead measure.
In weight loss, the lag measure is the number on the scale. The lead measure is the number of calories consumed and the minutes spent running.
In knowledge work, instead of obsessing over the lagging measure of number of articles published, you optimize strictly for the lead measure, number of hours spent writing in a state of deep work. If you aggressively increase the lead measure, the lag measure takes care of itself.
Discipline 3 builds on that momentum. Keep a compelling scoreboard. Behavioral economics proves that human beings act completely differently when they are keeping score.
Newport suggests a remarkably simple pen and paper tally of the hours you spend in deep work. You put it somewhere highly visible, right next to your monitor, to keep yourself motivated and to visually confront yourself if you are slacking off.
And Discipline 4 ensures it all stays on track. A cadence of accountability. If you're a solopreneur working from home and you don't have a boss holding your feet to the fire, you have to engineer that accountability yourself.
You establish a weekly review where you look at your scorecard and honestly assess the data. Why did you fall short on Tuesday? Was the goal too ambitious, or did you let Twitter steal an hour? Or recognize that you crushed it and need to push the boundary further next week?
However, this raises an important question. These structural disciplines will utterly fail if your biological hardware, your brain, is incapable of sustained focus. And this is where Newport delivers a very hard, uncomfortable truth. Efforts to deepen your focus will struggle, if not completely fail, if you don't simultaneously wean your mind from its physiological dependence on distraction.
Yes, we have to face the music. We are profoundly addicted to distraction. We literally crave it.
We have to ask the underlying psychological question. Why do we crave a notification so badly? The reality is that deep work is incredibly taxing on the brain. When you are writing a complex proposal and you hit a point of friction, a moment where the answer isn't obvious and you have to think hard, your brain actively looks for an escape hatch to avoid the cognitive load.
Grabbing your phone to check social media provides an instant, effortless hit of dopamine. It relieves the friction, but it destroys the work.
So how do we actually condition the mind to sit in that uncomfortable friction? Newport outlines some intense, highly effective strategies. First, he says you have to completely invert your relationship with the internet. You have to make focus your default mode.
Currently, most people's default mode is being online, connected, and distracted, and they occasionally try to dip into focus. Newport argues you must flip that paradigm. You should schedule in advance the specific blocks of time when you are allowed to use the internet, and you must avoid it entirely outside of those times. You make offline your default biological state.
This means if you are working offline and you get stuck on a task, you have to resist the overwhelming urge to go online to just quickly look up one fact. If you absolutely need the internet for research, use aggressive site blocking software to blacklist all social media and news sites during your work block.
Another powerful tactic is adding the artificial pressure of time. He calls this interval training for the attention centers of your brain. You estimate how long a deep work task should normally take, you say, 3 hours, and you give yourself a hard, non-negotiable deadline of an hour and a half.
By drastically shrinking the window, you force your brain into a state of hyper-concentration out of sheer necessity. It leaves absolutely no room for the mind to wander.
And then there's a concept that sounds completely paradoxical: productive meditation. This is brilliant. The goal here is to take a period where your body is occupied physically, but your mind is not like walking the dog, taking a long shower, or commuting on the train, and you focus your attention entirely on a single, well-defined professional problem.
The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When you are performing a rote physical task without external input like a podcast, your brain enters what is called the default mode network. This is the state where your brain connects disparate ideas and memories.
Instead of letting your mind wander aimlessly to what you are having for dinner, productive meditation tethers that powerful network to a specific professional challenge.
Have you tried it?
I have actively tried this, and let me tell you, it is brutally hard to resist what Newport calls mental looping. Your brain desperately wants to go in circles over the easiest, most familiar thoughts. You have to actively notice when your mind wanders off the problem and physically drag your attention back to it, much like returning to your breath in traditional mindfulness meditation.
And that very act of dragging your attention back is the mechanism that builds your cognitive endurance. You are literally rewiring neural pathways through myelination, making the act of focusing easier the next time.
Newport even suggests practicing extreme memory games like memorizing the order of a shuffled deck of cards. You don't do this to perform party tricks. You do it because the intense, sustained focus required for memorization creates a halo effect. It upgrades your general cognitive hardware, improving your ability to concentrate across all areas of your life.
It is entirely about treating your attention like a physical muscle that requires rigorous, uncomfortable training. And it's important to note, this isn't always a solo endeavor. Newport mentions collaborative deep work.
You can sit in a room with a brilliant colleague and work intensely on a shared problem, pushing each other to greater outputs through a shared state of flow. But you cannot confuse that high-level collaboration with the shallow, chaotic distraction of a modern open-floor office where people are just shouting questions over low cubicle walls.
Intentional collaboration is a surgical tool. Open-plan offices are a productivity trap.
Which brings us to a vital, non-negotiable counterbalance to everything we have discussed so far. We have spent this entire deep dive talking about taking massive risks, ignoring societal expectations, guarding our time like hoarders, and training our brains like elite Olympic athletes. But human beings are not machines.
No, we are not. If you attempt to run at 100% cognitive capacity forever, you will not just get tired, you will catastrophically break. How do we sustain this level of intensity and momentum over a lifetime without completely burning out?
The fascinating synthesis here is that both Ankur Warikoo and Cal Newport, coming from completely different angles, offer the exact same prescription for long-term sustainability: structured rest and fundamental awareness.
Let's examine the biological limitations first. Newport states very clearly, backed by performance research, that our physical capacity for deep work is strictly finite. For most highly trained knowledge workers, the absolute upper limit is only about 4 hours a day.
4 hours, that's it. When I first read that, I was shocked. We have 8 to 10 hour workdays, but we only have 4 hours of peak cognitive output.
Beyond that 4-hour mark, the principle of diminishing returns hits you like a brick wall. You might still be sitting at your desk, staring at the monitor, typing words, but you are no longer doing deep work. You are just fatiguing your neural pathways and likely making mistakes that will take you longer to fix tomorrow.
This inherent biological limit implies something wonderful, though. There is plenty of time left in the evening for actual downtime. And Newport is adamant about the mandatory power of genuine downtime.
Regularly resting your brain doesn't just feel good. It actively improves the quality of your deep work the following day. Newport cites unconscious thought theory, which argues that providing your conscious brain time to completely detach enables your unconscious mind to take a shift, sorting through your most complex professional challenges.
Have you ever gone to bed completely stuck on a coding problem or a writing block and woken up the next morning with the answer perfectly formed in their head? That is your unconscious mind doing the heavy lifting while your conscious mind rested.
And this is a massive critical, but you completely ruin this biological process if you sneak in extra emails, read industry news, or respond to group chats in the evening. Real downtime requires uninterrupted rest. Cooking a meal, going for a walk in nature, being fully present with your family.
To protect this necessary downtime, Newport strongly advocates for instituting a strict shutdown ritual. At the end of the workday, you spend 10 minutes running through your to-do list, migrating incomplete tasks, and making a rough plan for tomorrow.
Then, you consciously tell your brain, out loud if necessary, work is over. You close the laptop, and you do not reopen it under any circumstances. You give your neurological system a clear, definitive signal to enter processing and recovery mode.
Warikoo approaches this exact same concept of sustainability from a slightly different angle, the angle of habits and financial runway. Because, let's be honest, taking bold risks, recalculating your life's GPS, and dedicating yourself to deep work is exponentially easier when you aren't terrified of going completely broke.
Financial awareness is a recurring, deeply pragmatic theme in Warikoo's book. He emphasizes that an alarming number of people grow up without ever understanding the fundamental mechanics of money. They earn a decent income, but they never learn how to manage it, save it, or invest it. They just inflate their lifestyle to match their paycheck.
But for Warikoo, mastering money is not about buying yachts or becoming ridiculously wealthy.
No, it is purely about buying freedom. Financial independence, even on a small scale, provides you with the runway to make decisions based on your deepest values, rather than your immediate fears.
If you have a solid financial cushion, you have the freedom to take a risk on a new, unproven project. You have the ultimate freedom to walk away from a toxic job that demands 14 hours of shallow work a day and leaves you with zero energy for your own life.
And this ties seamlessly back to his focus on micro-habits. Warikoo encourages consistent, incredibly small, daily improvements rather than chasing dramatic overnight success. Spending 20 minutes learning a new skill, optimizing your time allocation slightly better than yesterday, saving a small percentage of your income automatically.
Over a decade, those seemingly insignificant daily habits compound, leading to massive structural changes in your baseline freedom.
And all of this, the self-awareness, the protected time, the deep focus, the financial runway, it all culminates in authenticity. Warikoo believes that in today's hyper-connected world, we feel this immense, crushing pressure to present a perfect, polished version of ourselves.
But authenticity is far more valuable and far more magnetic than perfection. Being radically honest about your journey, including those messy early failures and the recalculations, is what actually builds real connection with an audience, with clients, and with yourself.
If we pull all the way back and synthesize this entire journey we've been on today across these two brilliant sources, financial independence gives you the practical freedom to fail and recalculate. Unplugged, genuine downtime gives you the biological cognitive energy required to execute deep work.
Deep work equips you with the rare ability to create unique, high-level value in a distracted world.
And rigorous self-awareness ensures that the value you are spending your life creating is actually meaningful to you, rather than just fulfilling a metric on society's made-up timeline.
Which brings it all the way back to you, the listener. If you only have 4 hours of peak, world-changing, deep work capacity a day, are you spending it building your true, authentic life? Or are you spending it answering Slack messages to serve society's expectations?
Are you forcing yourself to stay on the predetermined train tracks? Or are you charting your own GPS coordinates based on what actually fuels your energy?
It is the ultimate diagnostic question of intentionality. You have to audit your life.
So what does this all mean? Bringing together the philosophies of Ankur Warikoo and Cal Newport, it means that life is simply too short and your time is too valuable to live passively. You cannot just react to the loudest demands the world places on you.
Authenticity and depth will beat shallow perfection every single time. Time is a rapidly depleting asset of energy and potential wealth, and you have to guard it fiercely.
And guarding it is not a passive act. It requires the deliberate daily cultivation of extreme focus and the tremendous courage to step out of comfortable, predictable situations that are slowly draining your soul.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on after this ends. Both Warikoo and Newport agree on one harsh, fundamental truth. Waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect condition is a psychological trap designed to keep you safe.
The perfect moment never arrives.
If your time is constantly depleting 86,400 seconds, disappearing into the void every single day without fail, and your deep work capacity is strictly capped at 4 hours, what is the one wildly important thing you are delaying right now simply because you are waiting to feel ready?
You are never going to feel fully ready to do something extraordinary. The friction will always be there.
Sometimes the absolute best decision you can make is simply to start. The diagnostic x-ray of your future success is always going to be murky. The societal timeline you are stressing over is a complete illusion. So embrace the inevitable failure, aggressively protect your focus, and start building the life you actually want today.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Step out of your comfort zone, and we will see you next time.